Hey everyone, and welcome to Chef AJ Live. I'm your host, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, and this is where I introduce you to amazing people like you who are doing great things in the world that I think you should know about. Right, Racky? My guest today is Cindy Thompson, and she's going to be doing some very spooky recipes with lion's mane. Please welcome Cindy to the show.
Thank you, Scooby-Doo. Thank you, Chef AJ. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm Cindy Thompson with Trimazing, and I'm just thrilled to be here today to talk to you about a really eerie, spooky, perfect Halloween ingredient, lion's mane mushrooms.
That's great. It's
Yeah.
actually, just so you know, that was me. It wasn't really Scooby. So
You did a really fantastic job.
practicing.
So happy Halloween.
You look amazing, by the way.
Well, thank you. This is my Bellatrix Lestrange costume. When you have long, brown, curly hair, it opens up every character that Helena Bonham Carter does. So this was a costume, what I did when Harry Potter was really popular. So it was great to pull that out of the closet and do some witchy mushroom recipes today.
That's great. Hey, just out of curiosity, like, do you get a lot of trick-or-treaters where you live?
We get a fair amount. We're in a rural area, but we have a really active Facebook group, and they put a map together of all the houses that are on the trick-or-treater circuit in our area. So we get them because of that. But in the years past, when there wasn't as many. It seems like it's kind of on the wane.
Yeah. So we're just
How about
curious.
you?
Well, I don't know, because this is my first Halloween here, so I have no idea what to expect. But we have the dilemma, like, what do you give out? Is it vegan? Is it not vegan? Is it healthy? Is it not healthy? Do you give them money? Do you give them glow sticks? What do you do, Cindy?
Well, we have given out stickers, and we've given out erasers and things like that, non-food items in the past, and that seemed to work. We didn't find them in our driveway afterwards.
Oh no. Well, okay.
Well, we didn't find them. So yeah, but yeah, it was always kind of the worry, but I didn't feel like giving out candy because it really doesn't support with what we do. And I didn't want to give a lot of
giving out
garbage
candy.
things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so erasers have been really, really popular.
That's cool. Hey, what have you been up to since your last appearance on Chef AJ Live? I heard you did an interview with Rick Besselston for his Plant Strong podcast.
I did. So yeah, last month I was on Plant Strong. I guess it was earlier in this month when it actually aired, which was fantastic. And thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I've just been busy teaching cooking classes in person finally, since COVID restrictions have kind of let up. So I've been teaching the in-person cooking classes in the Seattle area. And I do have some more online cooking classes coming up. If you go to my website, trimazing.com/events, you can see what cooking classes I have coming up. In January, I'm doing a series called Your Body in Balance, which is based off of Neil Barnard's book of the same name. We're going to be cooking really great recipes that help support your thyroid, help support reproductive health, help support hormones in your body. And it's a really great class with super recipes and great lectures from the PCRM staff, including Dr. Barnard.
I love your makeup. How did you do it so spooky?
I don't know. I just did it myself. So yeah, lots of dark eye makeup and dark lipstick, and that's really what counted. That's what did it for me.
I love it. Thanks for dressing up. I'm glad I did too. I would have felt bad if you were the only one.
Well, it's kind of the fun of Halloween is to dress up. And so, yeah, I had to find something that worked with cooking and wasn't going to get into much in the way. But yeah, so that's what I've been up to. And I know that in their show notes, you'll have a link to a page that's specifically for your listeners, which is trimazing.com/Halloween-2022. 2022. I've got it on the bottom of my screen here, but it's in the show notes. On that, you can click to get a link for the classes. You can also get a discount code for coaching with me for one-on-one coaching, which I do a lot of that virtually. I love helping people transition to eating whole food plant-based from wherever they are. And there's a discount code in there for that. So yeah, that's lots of stuff going on. Yeah, just living the whole food plant-based life.
Cool. So you're working with something called lion's mane mushrooms. What are they? Where do you get them? And tell us about them a little bit.
Yeah. So lion's mane mushrooms are fairly new in the marketplace. They're showing up more and more. And a couple of years ago, I ran across them at my farmer's market with one of our mushroom growers in the Snoqualmie Valley where I live, just outside Seattle. I was amazed. I'd never seen it before. It looks like a big giant cauliflower, really strange looking. In fact, I was looking through Facebook group the other day and somebody wrote, I had a picture of a lion's mane mushroom and they wrote, "Oh my goodness, I got a tribble in my CSA box. I don't even know what to do with it. I don't know what it is." So I thought this is a perfect opportunity to showcase this mushroom. So this mushroom, the lion's mane mushroom, it grows in a big clump, looks kind of like a cauliflower. It's kind of a medium weight. And it was a wild mushroom. It still is a wild mushroom that you can find in wooded areas with hardwood is what it likes to grow on. But in the late 80s, it started to be cultivated. And so mushroom growers all over the country are growing these mushrooms now. These in particular, I got from my local mushroom farm, which is Mount Si Fungi. They're in North Bend, Washington. And then they deliver these to my house. They have a delivery area. So if you're in the Seattle area, the east side, and you're interested in getting a subscription for mushrooms, they do have an area where they do deliver, which is great. So you have fresh mushrooms every other week. They grow all kinds of different mushrooms. But if you can't find lion's mane mushrooms, you can substitute other mushrooms. Like these are some beautiful oyster mushrooms that I also got from Mount Si Fungi. You could use the stems of portobello mushrooms. Or what's also fabulous is you can grow your own. So I'm going to step off screen here for a minute and grab something. So Mount Si Fungi has a fantastic online store that you can order grow kits. So this is a grow kit of lion's mane mushrooms. You can order this. They'll ship it anywhere around the country with instructions, and you can grow your own. And from this brick, it's got like compressed sawdust in there, and it's inoculated with lion's mane spores. And you can grow about 5 big bunches off of this in all. You'll grow 1 big bunch at a time. Super fun for kids. It's a great present, like for the holidays. You don't have to have it in a dark, damp area. You has all the instructions. You grow it in your home out of direct light. It doesn't smell, and it's super fun to grow your own mushrooms. So don't despair if you can't find lion's mane mushrooms. You can buy your own. And Mount Si Fungi is so generous. If you go to the link in the show notes, that trimazing.com/Halloween-2022, they are offering 10% off of everything on their online store. So you could get these at 10% off. Super generous. So I really appreciate that they did that. So lion's mane mushrooms are a very mild mushroom. And they're a great substitute in plant-based cooking for chicken or crab because they really flake apart. And I'm going to show that when I do the cooking. But they have been around for a very long time, used in Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, for a long, long time, eons. And it was used for boosting brain health. It's kind of ironic. It kind of looks like a brain. And I'll show you, I'm going to change my view so you can really see what it looks like.
Ooh,
But
it is kind of spooky. You're right.
Isn't it spooky looking? But really great. Sometimes they're really tight and other times they kind of fall apart like this, but very tender, very delicious, nice and white. But they were used for boosting brain health. And there's been a lot of studies in animal studies, which aren't my favorite, but that it indeed has been shown to create new nerve cells growing in your brain, specifically in the hippocampus of your brain. It's also been shown to decrease amyloid plaques, which are related to Alzheimer's disease. They're really wonderful for boosting immunity. They have antioxidants. So it's really terrific food. And they're also antifungal, which is really strange to think that a mushroom is antifungal, but that's part of that boosting your immunity. So very, very strong. They're starting to do human studies in there, and they're finding that, yes, indeed, these lion's mane mushrooms are fabulous for brain health. So you can find them fresh, you can find them as powder that you can put in hot chocolate, or as a tincture that you can take to help support brain health. And there's lots of research out there. If you go to Google Scholar and you type in lion's mane mushroom health, you can find all kinds of information, all the great research that's going on lion's mane mushrooms.
That's weird that they're antifungal when aren't they fungus themselves?
Yeah, I know, that's what's really strange, but they help promote healthy immunity because of you're eating the fungal body. This is the fruiting body of that fungus. But yeah, they're really a great superfood. So today I'm going to make two fantastic recipes using lion's mane. I'm going to make a lion's mane noodle soup, which is a substitute for chicken noodle soup, which I'm so glad because I miss chicken noodle soup. And then I'm also going to make tacos, lion's mane tacos, which are the thing that we always take when we go camping. I always make sure I take some lion's mane mushrooms, and we always have fabulous tacos. They're super easy to make. In addition, for both of those recipes, I have an extra seasoning spice mix to go along with it. For the soup, I'm going to be making a copycat Manischewitz vegetable soup mix that I use to make my lion's mane soup. Super excited about this, and we'll talk about it when I get there. And then with the tacos, I'm going to show you how to make a really fantastic, easy pantry item. Both of the soup mix and the seasoning are going to be pantry items. A salt, oil, sugar-free taco seasoning that you can put together and have in a jar in your cabinet. So it's a great replacement for those packets that have all the nasty salt, sugar, and oil in them.
Nice. Have you ever grown the mushrooms yourself? I had no idea one could grow their own mushrooms.
I have this one that I'm going to grow. I know several friends of mine have grown them. Because I'm so spoiled and I can get them fresh from my farm, I haven't grown them myself. But I have had several friends that have grown these mushroom packets, and they do beautifully, and they're super fun. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, well, why don't we get started without further ado? The first thing I'm going to make is this Manischewitz, copycat Manischewitz soup mix. So when I was growing up, we always made soup starting with these Manischewitz soup mixes. They have a split pea mix. They have this vegetable soup mix. And I'll be honest with you, Chef AJ, I didn't know how to make soup anymore when I went plant-based, because I didn't know how to do it without this packet. And this packet is full of, if you look in the ingredients, in a row is sugar, salt, and oil in the seasoning mix. And so that was out the window. Plus there's pasta in here that has egg. And so I had to relearn how to make soup, but I really missed having the convenience of these Manischewitz packages. So I made a copycat up, and it uses mushroom as a base, but I'm also going to tell you how to do it. If you're not a mushroom person, please don't leave the show today. Because I have substitutes, and I should have said that at the very beginning because I probably lost people, but I have substitutes in everything I'm making today if mushroom's not your thing. But we're going to use in the seasoning mix some dried shiitake mushrooms. And the great thing about mushrooms, not only are they so healthy for us, which we learned about with the lion's mane mushrooms, but they give a lot of what we call umami, which is this. It's another sense of taste or flavor, which is savoriness. And we all know about sugar, or sweet, salty, bitter, sour, but umami is one that's really fairly newly listed in all of those tastes. And it's that savory. And I like to say it's the thing that makes you go, mommy, that's good. So umami, that's what we're going to get in these shiitake mushrooms. So you can get dried shiitake mushrooms. I'll just show you a picture closer up here. These are dried. You can find them in Asian markets, either as whole or even just slices, or you can dry your own. You can also get them from Mount Fungi and use your 10% off coupon and get dried shiitake mushrooms as well. If you don't like mushrooms and you don't want to have that in your soup mix, you can use dried vegetables. So you can find dehydrated vegetables of any kind. Those will work just as well. And the interesting thing is, I got some dried porcini mushrooms years ago, and I opened up the package, and it was overwhelmingly the smell of Lipton's soup mix, onion soup mix. And I think that they've been using, even on this soup mix, there has mushrooms. But mushrooms have been used as a flavoring base for a lot of non-vegan things, like the Lipton's onion soup mix or the Manischewitz, because they have that umami flavor. So to make our mix, I've got my Vitamix. You could use any kind of a blender or a food processor. And in this mix, I've got dried shiitake mushrooms. I have a cup of them. I'm going to put that in my blender, and we're just going to make a powder to make this soup mix. And then I have nutritional yeast. I have sun-dried tomatoes. Now, if you didn't know, you can actually buy dried sun-dried tomatoes that aren't in oil. These are fabulous. If you just use them like you normally would. If you wanted to put them in like a pasta or use them in a casserole, you just rehydrate them in hot boiling water. And I found this brand in many grocery stores, this Mazzetta brand. But I'm not rehydrating. These are dried because we're going to blend them into a powder. But tomatoes are also something that give a lot of umami, as does nutritional yeast. Let's see, I think I took a couple of those out to show you. So put those back in. And then I have a bunch of spices to go into this mix. And in there, I've got onion powder, garlic powder, some dried thyme, dried rosemary, parsley, sage, black pepper, sweet pepper. Yeah, I know, it is a song, isn't it? I could have dressed up as the Beatles today. I've got sweet paprika.
In a minute. Those aren't the Beatles. Parsley, sage, rosemary,
and thyme. Was that the Beatles or was that Peter, Paul, and Mary?
No, neither. Wait, guys, who sang parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme? It was not the Beatles.
Paul Simon, maybe. Parsley, sage, rosemary.
It's Scarborough.
Simon and Garfunkel.
Okay, that's better.
Okay, there we go. On the spot, and I really ruined musical trivia. All right, sweet paprika, smoked paprika. That's one of my favorite spices, and it gives a really great umami. Got some celery seed, turmeric powder that's going to give a nice yellow color to our not chicken soup, and a bay leaf that we're just going to grind up in there. And that's going to go right into my blender. So this that we're making is making more than what we need for our soup today, because it's always so good to make things in batches and make things ahead. So instead of having my plastic package of Manischewitz, I'm now able to put together little jars. I'll now change my view so you can see better. Little jars that are basically the same thing as my soup mix. I've got my soup mix in the bottom, and then I've got all of the beans and grains that I'll do next after I make the powder. So this is equal to one package of the Manischewitz soup mix. And you're going to be able to get 8 of these from the mix that I'm making here. So Chef AJ, are you familiar with the Manischewitz soup mixes? I absolutely am. Yeah, I really miss them. It's so nice to have them again. And these make great gifts. So I don't put the pasta in with my grains, because the grains are going to take a while to cook, as we'll see. So it's separate, but you can put these in a jar and they make fantastic gifts. You just give the recipe to somebody. So it's a nice make a mix ahead. So now that I've got everything in my blender, I'm going to blend away until it turns into a powder. I'm going to put a towel over the top because it will start blowing some powder around. So stand by. Okay, and we're going to let that sit for a minute, because if I open it up now, it's just going to erupt with powder. So that is my mix. And I would go ahead and put that in the bottom of 8 little jars. Here we go. Let's take a look here, see how we're doing. It's really, really witchy in here now. Okay, so in here now I have this powder and it smells delicious. It smells savory, and all those mushrooms are all blended up. You want to make sure that it's nice and blended. And then you would put that into your little jars. So that's our flavoring for our soup mix. I'm just going to set this aside. And then we need to put together our grains and our beans. So we'll set this aside. And for this, with the Manischewitz, traditionally what it comes with it are green split peas, yellow split peas, barley, and they use pearled barley, and I'm going to use whole groat barley. They put mini lima beans, and I'm going to use little Great Northern beans. So now we're just going to mix those together. These are the yellow split pea. Again, I'm making 8 times of the soup mix. Oh, there's a little rock in there. Always check and make sure with your beans that there's not a rock in there. Here's some barley. You could use any grain that you like. You could use lentils if you prefer lentils over split peas. And then these are the Great Northern beans. Any small bean will work in here. I wouldn't recommend doing a big bean like a kidney bean because it's not going to cook long enough and will give you a stomach ache. So any type of small bean, cannellini beans would be great. I'm just going to mix this all up. You can omit the beans altogether if you don't want beans and just add some more of the grain or split peas. But that is our mix that's going to go on top of our spice mix in our jar. So now that we have that all made up, we can just pull this out of our pantry when it's time to make soup at a later time.
You ever think about selling those?
I should, shouldn't I? But yeah, they're really fantastic. And I'm so happy to be able to make my chicken soup, or my not chicken soup again, using my spice mix. All right, so now let's get the burner up and we'll make some soup using these lion's mane mushrooms. I feel like this is a big teaser, like I talk about the lion's mane mushrooms and then I talk about everything else in between.
And so would they be available? Like, I'm sure like places like Whole Foods would have them, but would they be available just even in a regular grocery store, you think?
I've seen them at my Whole Foods. I've seen them at our natural foods market nearby. I've seen them at farmers markets a lot. And I don't know if that's just because the Northwest has a lot of mushroom farms, but I see them almost at every single farmers market now. I've seen them at different places online where you can order them. Depending on where you live, you might hardly have a mushroom farmer nearby that you could buy those mushrooms. Barring that, you could use things like oyster mushrooms, and I'm going to show you how you can use it in place of the lion's mane mushroom. Yeah, they're really popular.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about them.
All right, so I'm going to heat up a pot and I'm going to cook some celery, onion, and carrots, the Trinity. for my soup. And then while those are cooking, we're going to work on preparing the mushrooms. So let this heat up. So I just have, oops, spilled that all over, 2 carrots that I've sliced up. 2 of my carrots, and I like this little crinkle cut, but you can just dice them however size that you want. I've got 2 stalks of celery that are just diced up. And then I have half of an onion. So this soup makes, oh gosh, I'll have to look at my thing. It makes 5 servings. So normally, oftentimes when I make this, I'll double it because I have like lots and lots of it. It freezes great also. So when my pan is hot, we'll add those. And then I have 2 cloves of garlic that are minced that I'll put in there too. I have my spice mix and then more mushrooms. So we want about 4 cups of shredded mushrooms, whether it's lion's mane or another kind. So I'm going to add my vegetables and get those cooking. No oil in here. So there goes my onions, my celery, and my carrots.
Have you ever used?
And then we're just,
oh, sorry about that.
yeah.
I was just wondering, when I was thinking about chicken noodle soup, have you ever used jackfruit?
Yes. Yeah. And I used to always use jackfruit for my not chicken noodle soup until I discovered the lion's mane. And I think I like the lion's mane better. So it is the lion's mane is very mild. And it tastes like chicken, and it has a texture and look just like chicken when you put it in the soup. And the jackfruit, I always felt like I tasted the brine a little bit, even if I squeezed it out. And I don't have that so much with this beautiful lion's mane mushroom. So this mushroom, I am just going to shred, and you'll see how beautifully it shreds. And I'm going to make them into chicken-like pieces, a little bigger than maybe I want, because being mushrooms, they have a lot of water in them, and they will lose a lot of water as they're going. So,
but you know, you can get
nice that shreds.
You can get jackfruit that's not in brine. You can get it like in a package.
That is true. The packages that I have, they all have seasonings in them and a lot of oil. So I've had if you have some that are not seasoned.
Yeah, I get it at Sprouts. It's from Edwards and Son.
Oh, see, I don't have a Sprouts up here. Darn it.
You can get it online though, but anyway.
Okay. I'll look for that, because yeah, that brine taste is just a little off-putting for me.
Yeah.
So see how beautifully and easily that shreds? It's just almost therapeutic, but we're going to do this for the tacos too. Give this a stir. So with your vegetables, we want to get them so they start to soften up before we cook them in the soup. And if things start to stick, you'll want to put a little bit of vegetable stock or water. Just the typical no oil saute. Here are my mushrooms. Let me get these all shredded. Then I'm going to show you using oyster mushrooms. So if you didn't like mushrooms, you could use jackfruit, just like Chef AJ mentioned, and that really great brand. You could also use cauliflower. You could use chickpeas. Those are all great substitutions here. So don't feel like you can't make this soup if you don't like mushrooms. However, I will say that lion's mane mushrooms don't really even taste like mushroom. They don't have that funky fungus flavor. They just are extremely mild, very meaty. I don't have that mushroom. It doesn't even have that big mushroom odor like a lot of mushrooms have. So if you're not sure about mushrooms and you want to give this a try, I would recommend trying lion's mane mushrooms. You might like them. Here we go.
Well, you sold me. I'm going to really look for them.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. And like I said, if you can't find them, go ahead and check out Mount Si Fungi, because they do have grow kits and all that good stuff. So, and this soup that we're making really fits into Dr. Furman's G-bombs because we've got mushrooms and we've got grains and we've got vegetables. We got onions. The only thing we don't have, we've got seeds with the barley. The only thing we don't have is fruit or berries. So if you had a side of berries, you've got a Dr. Furman G-bomb meal. All right.
Jennifer wants to know if you should rinse the beans before mixing it in with the seasonings.
That's always a good thing to do. A lot of times I will rinse my beans before I use them. They were all in that with the seasoning. You'd want them really, really, really dried before you put them with that seasoning in the can. So if you wanted to separate them out, you'd be able to rinse them. But with the seasoning in there, not going to be able to do that. So here is my pile of shredded mushrooms. Now here's an oyster mushroom that you can find at almost any grocery store, even like a Safeway. And you'll see that you can actually shred these mushrooms as well. Look how beautifully they shred, stem and all. So you get that same chickeny texture. You can do that with portobello mushrooms. A lot of times I'll take the outer dark skin off and scoop out the gills so it's nice and light colored. And you can do the same thing with those. So if you can't find the lion's mane mushrooms, but you do have oyster mushrooms, give that a try with those as well in both of these recipes. Okay, so I'm going to add a little dash of water here. I think they're starting to stick. And they're getting nice and soft. So now I'm going to add my mushrooms that I have shredded up. Put those oyster mushroom ones in there as well. Give that a nice stir. And you're going to watch this transform. It looks so much like chicken. It's mind-blowing. I'll put a little of my garlic in there too. Grab a spoon. We'll just put that garlic in. I didn't put the garlic in when I would saute my vegetables because it will burn. But adding that garlic in there now with all of the other things, plus the mushrooms that have lots of water in them, it's going to infuse into those mushrooms and not stick.
Jennifer says she loves your costume.
Oh, thank you. I was so excited to be able to wear it again. Sometimes you wear a costume and then you think, oh, well, I've worn that and people have seen it. I don't want to wear it again, but I just love this costume. All right. I have another costume I really love, but I don't think it was a good cooking costume, and it's a fembot from Austin Powers. I thought that the witch one was better, especially with the mushrooms. So as you can see, my mushrooms are now cooking down, and it's looking a lot like chicken.
It's beginning to look a lot like chicken.
Maybe that'll be the next show, the holiday show. It's beginning to look a lot like a chicken in the kitchen. All right. So it's looking great. So you're just going to cook this down until those mushrooms look just like chicken, getting a nice color on them and really broken down. And now it's time to add some water or stock. I'm using vegetable stock. I make my stock from the scraps from all of my vegetables. So the onion skins and the peels from carrots and the ends of the celery works great. Any kind of vegetable that you have, but you could use water. There's no problem in using water in this. This is 7 cups. Give that a pour. And we'll turn up the heat. We want to bring this to a boil. Now I've got my vegetable soup mix that we made earlier. You can see all the grains and the beans in there. And we're going to pour that in. Get that seasoning just come out of the bottom with all that umami and all those flavors. So now I didn't have to go to my cupboard and get 15 different spices. It was already made up for me. So it's a huge time saver. And it's got that mushroom umami and the sun-dried tomato. Just stir that in. And now we're going to bring this to a boil. And then cover it and let it simmer for an hour and a half to 2 hours, so that those grains and the beans are soft. You can also make this in an Instant Pot. That really is a great way to make this soup, is to your Instant Pot, do the saute with your vegetables, your mushrooms and your garlic, add in your broth and your bean and spice mixture, and then do on high pressure for a half an hour with a natural pressure release. And you've got this beautifully cooked soup. Very, very simple. Does great in the Instant Pot. So this is what our soup will be. And then once those grains and beans are soft, whether you use the Instant Pot or you simmer it on the stove, and I like to simmer it with the lid on, that keeps all the liquid from evaporating. Then we'll add our pasta. So as you recall, I talked about a pasta mix. So I use a small whole grain pasta. This happens to be orzo. But any type of small pasta will work. There's only like a quarter of a cup here because there's a small amount of soup. But any kind of pasta that you like, you don't have to use these small ones. If you want to use whole grain spaghetti noodles and just break them up and put them in there for your noodle soup, the sky's the limit. But for my little packet that I put together, especially for gifts, this is a nice size. So after our beans and our grains are soft, we're going to add our pasta and our kale, because I always like to add kale to my soups. I add kale to just about everything. It's a great way to get a lot of nutrition. And let me bring over my soup that I made earlier to show you what it looks like. Absolutely beautiful, traditional looking chicken noodle soup. And so after my hour and a half, 2 hours were up, I brought it back to a boil and I poured in my pasta. And so that quarter cup of pasta, and then I added about a quarter of a bunch of kale. And I boiled that for 10 minutes until the pasta was soft. And now we have awesome, amazing, delicious, wholesome, comforting, just like grandma made, not chicken noodle soup made with lion's mane mushrooms. So you can garnish that with some parsley. This is super comforting, very delicious. It's exactly what the doctor ordered when you're not feeling well. It freezes beautifully. So if you make this up and put it in freezer containers, then later on, if you have a cold and you're feeling under the weather, you have chicken soup, not chicken soup available for you. So that is lion's mane, not chicken noodle soup. All right. So any questions come in on that?
Oh, let me look. I was watching you. Hold on. Sorry. It's so enthralled. Well, a lot of people love our costumes. I don't know how dogs do it. It's so hard. Can you ever use, see, I can't even see with this Scooby hen. Can you ever use hen of the woods? Mona asks. I don't know what hen of the woods is. That?
Oh, yeah. Hen of the woods is beautiful. It's also called chicken of the woods. And it's looks like chanterelles. It's a kind of a yellow color, orangey color. They grow in a big bunch on sides of trees up here in the Pacific Northwest. They're very meaty. You can find them at farmers markets sometimes, or from people who are foraging. I'm not a mushroom forager, but they're delicious, and they have kind of they'd be great in this as well. Very mild, very meaty, and they cook up like chicken, hence the name Hen of the Woods. They're great. Yeah, good suggestion.
Never heard of them.
Oh, there's so much.
Kathy says, is there a reason you're tearing the mushrooms rather than cutting them?
Yeah, so I'm tearing them because it looks more like chicken to me. When I would make chicken soup before I was plant-based, I always made chicken soup after I had baked chicken. And so I would shred the chicken that was already cooked, share it off the bones. And so for me, traditionally, it looks right when I'm shredding it, but you can certainly chop this as well if you would like that your chicken to look that way, or your lion's mane chicken to look that way. Plus, it's less things I have to wash later. I would prefer not to have to wash a whole bunch of dishes. So shredding it works for me. All right. Anything else before we move on to tacos?
Let me look. Okay. Are the mushrooms expensive? Christine.
Yeah, so they are a little bit more than the white mushrooms, and I can't tell you off the top of my head, but they aren't as expensive as like if I got morels or some other exotics, but they're more than a white button mushroom. They're special, but the more and more they're showing up in the grocery stores, the less expensive they're getting. But I think they're worth it for sure. I just don't have a price off the top of my head for you.
And Janet says, how do you make your broth?
How do I make my broth? So in the recipe that you can download off of the links in the show note, if you go to the recipe for, I just had it, the lion's mane mushroom soup, on the line that has 7 cups of water or vegetable stock. Vegetable stock is a hyperlink. Click on that and I have the instructions on how to make it super easy. You just put your scraps in the Instant Pot, or a stock pot if you don't have one, cover it with water and let it simmer. In an Instant Pot, it's 10 minutes with a quick release and you have beautiful stock. Super easy.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Great way to use up all those scraps, rather than putting them in the garbage. It's a great zero waste thing to do. I also wanted to share with the lion's mane mushrooms, you want to store them in your refrigerator in a paper bag. All mushrooms. Mushrooms hate plastic. They just don't do well. So this is why they sell mushrooms with paper bags next to them for you to get your mushrooms, because it's a great way to store them. They stay nice and fresh. It keeps the moisture in there. They don't get rubbed on by the plastic. So this is a lion's mane mushroom that I actually froze in the bag. Didn't cook it or anything, but we were going to be going on vacation and I didn't use my lion's mane mushroom. And since they are a little more expensive than a button mushroom, I didn't want it to go bad. And I just kept it in the paper bag, threw it in the freezer. And now it's defrosted and I can shred it the same way. There's a little bit of liquid in there, but it actually stays together pretty nice. This one's a little more frozen, you can see, and it'll shred just as easy, and you can cook it from this state. So if you can't get your mushrooms done in time with these lion mane mushrooms, you can freeze them and they will shred just beautifully later.
Does it change the texture at all? Because I know when I have raw food chefs on the show, like Lissa Maris or Chris Kendall, they have a technique where they freeze things like cauliflower, and then they defrost it and it's still raw, but it's changed the texture a bit.
Yeah, so it is changed because the act of freezing actually causes the water to expand in the cells of the vegetable. So they are a little softer. And in fact, you could squeeze the liquid out now. But once you cook it up and put it in the soup, the texture is exactly the same. But yeah, it does change the texture, just like anything that you would freeze vegetable wise, that it causes the cell walls to break and then the moisture to come out.
Does it change it for the better, like maybe making it chewier?
It is a little chewier. I think it's chewy either way, but I think maybe just a little tiny chewier if you freeze it ahead of time. but works just fine. We've never complained about it. It just was easy. Yeah, it will work just fine. It doesn't change the texture to the worst. It is actually a really good texture. So, all right. So our next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make tacos out of lion's mane. Like I said, this is something that we always do when we would go camping. We have a little teardrop trailer, and it's just really convenient to have the lion's mane mushroom to turn it into tacos. And to do that, I make a taco seasoning. It's salt, sugar, and oil free. And I'm not going to mix it all in the bowl, but I'll tell you what's in here. So change your view so you can take a look. There's a lot of nutritional yeast in there. It gives that nice cheesy flavor that you want in your tacos. It has a 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast, 1/3 of a cup of chili powder. You could use any flavor of chili powder that you like, whether it's super spicy or mild, depending on your taste. Some ground cumin, 1/3 of a cup of that, 1/4 a cup of granulated onion, or 2/3 of a cup of dried minced onion. And then if you want some extra spice, you can add about 2.5 tablespoons of chipotle pepper powder, or some crushed dried red pepper flakes to taste. If you don't want it spicy, you could use some smoked paprika in its place. I have 2.5 tablespoons of granulated garlic, 1.5 tablespoons of dried oregano. You could also use dried cilantro if you'd like. And then 1.5 tablespoons of smoked paprika. I love, like I said before, that smoked paprika, and it just gives this really nice meaty flavor to things. So that is my taco seasoning, and it makes about 2 cups. And then 2 tablespoons of this spice equals a packet that you would buy at the grocery store of taco seasoning. I've also used this for fajitas. It was great for fajita seasoning as well.
Why don't you
super easy.
Why don't you just start selling these?
Yeah, I know. I should. In my spare time.
Would you guys buy these if she had them on her website? The taco seasoning and the copycat Manischewitz soup mix?
Ooh, wow. I love it. I like how you're thinking. Let me know. All right. So we're going to make the tacos, and they're fantastic and super easy and fast. I have my mushrooms that are already shredded. This is about a pound of mushrooms, so a little bit more than what I had in my soup. These are not frozen. Again, you could use the other mushrooms. Also, for these tacos, if you didn't want mushrooms, you could use jackfruit in the place. I've done jackfruit for these tacos as well, and they do perfect. I've got an onion that's chopped. It's 1/2 of an onion. And my taco seasoning. That's it for the taco base. It's going to give us like a carnitas style taco. So when my pan is hot, I'm going to throw in my onions. And we're going to cook these until they get browned. All right. And you can use any type of onion that you like. Red onion is great in here. Spring onions. Get my liquid in case that needs to get unstuck. What do you like on your tacos, Chef AJ?
Oh my gosh, I love green onions for sure, but salsa is my favorite thing. And I like green salsa better than red salsa. Do you have a good recipe for like a green or tomatillo salsa? That's my favorite.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to use green salsa today. And it's one that I canned. And this is, I think it's just the Ball canning green salsa recipe. I'll put a link in that. I'll add that to the webpage for folks. If you are a canner, and you're looking for plant-based Facebook groups where you don't have to look at all of the animals being canned. I have a canning group, a whole food plant-based vegan canning group on Facebook. I'll put the link in there too. They've got, I think, 1,600 people in that group, all focused on making whole food and plant-based canning goods, whether they're pressure canned or water bath canned. So I'll put the link on there. I'd love to have you in the group. And, you know, we share all kinds of recipes that we find that we love that are successful. And they're all safe canning recipes.
That's cool. I didn't know you did canning, and everybody,
Yeah.
not everybody, but everybody that's commenting said, yes, they would buy your dry mixes.
Fantastic. Well, maybe I'll look into that. So that would be great.
I mean, the shelf
Good.
life would be good. It's not like making a perishable project, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they are great. They do stay on the shelf a long time. And yeah, that's a great idea. You know, I really miss that convenience of having some of those pantry items when they were no longer available to me as whole food plant-based. And I have lots of ideas and some other mixes that I make that maybe I'll share and consider selling as well. Like a spice mix that I do for spaghetti, especially we do a lot of camping. And like I said, we have a little teardrop trailer. And it's just not convenient to carry 14 different spices. So I like to make a mix up for my tofu scramble. And I like to make a mix up for my tacos and my spaghetti, because those are the things we generally make when we are camping.
Mhm.
Just to make things easy.
Do you have grandchildren?
Oh gosh, we have 8 grandchildren. Can you believe that?
I didn't even know you had children. I mean, you just seem so young to me. The reason I'm asking is because somebody named Laura wants to know if you're doing anything whole food plant-based for the grandkids. I'm blown away that you're a grandma. I did not know that.
Well, I actually acquired 8 grandchildren from my husband. I didn't have children myself. My husband has 4 adult children, and they have 2 children each. So we have 8 grandchildren that they all live nearby. We have great times together. We took one of our grandsons camping this summer in the trailer. He loved it. So yeah. And all of them love to learn how to cook. So whenever they come over, they always spend time in the kitchen with me. We have a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. In fact, I'm looking forward to seeing what all of their Halloween costumes are tonight. All right. So, normally I want to get these really nice and brown. They're getting there. But for the sake of time, they're quite brown. I'll show a picture here. They're getting nice and browned. Now I'm going to add in my mushrooms. Again, any type of mushroom or jackfruit. And we're just going to saute these over medium-high heat. And we're not going to add any liquid because there's liquid in those.
Even your spoon rest is Halloween.
I know, I had so much fun. I don't know if you can see in my background behind me, I decorated my shelves with, this is, I know my mom's watching, she'll get a kick out of this. This is my old plastic pumpkin that I used to carry with me trick-or-treating from when I was a little girl. I still have that. She gave that to me. So that's here's homage to my mom, and different little things here and there, pumpkins. It was fun to decorate it. In fact, my little skeletons, those 2 of my grandkids, we made those together. They're saying lion's mane. All right. So now these are just going to saute up. They'll get nice and browned and cook down and look just like carnitas. So we got waylaid on salsa. What else do you like to have on your tacos?
Well, you know what, let me just say that I like tostadas better than tacos because it's hard for me to turn, well, especially with this costume, but you know, when you eat a taco, you kind of have to turn your head, you know, and that's just always weird. So I just prefer the, you know, the tortilla flat, but I love shredded lettuce. I love, you know, the green salsa, or actually the brown salsa, which is called pasilla, which I get in Mexico. Scallions,
nice.
for sure. Believe it or not, I put a little bit of my faux parmesan on it. It's a recipe I have that's made with nutritional yeast, oats, and Benson's Table Tasty, kind of like a cheese sprinkle. That's what I put on. Do I put any jalapeno on? The salsa is usually spicy enough, but I Mexican food is probably my favorite, really.
Yeah, mine too. I really love Mexican food for sure. Yeah, those all sound fantastic. And I'm going to make a flat taco too. I think they're easier. I usually do soft tacos over hard shell tacos. To me, they're easier to eat because you take the first bite into the hard shell taco and it all falls apart.
Yep. You know, I even had one of those molds that you can make, you know, taco shells without any oil. It's like this metal thing and you kind of hang it over. And I just gave it to somebody because I just think tostadas are just a lot easier to eat.
Yeah, I agree. My mom has the pans that you put the tortilla in and bake it and it turns into a bowl. That's super fun.
Yeah, that's very cool. But yeah, that's easy to eat because you like, yeah, I love those too. I had those, I just gave those away too. I'm trying to downsize.
Well, you just moved. It's hard to move all that stuff.
That's true. I don't know how real dogs do this. I mean, I'm so hot.
Especially down in California where you are.
Yeah. And I'm itching too. And I realized I was supposed to have a Scooby-Doo collar that's green, and I don't know if I lost it or.
I knew who you were.
Okay, good. My husband's so tall and thin, and he's got a beard. I think he should just dress up as Shaggy. All he'd need was like a seafoam green T-shirt and some bell bottoms.
That's awesome. I love it when there's themed costumes for couples.
You could be Daphne or Velma, actually.
Yeah, I could. For sure.
Jennifer says
maybe we'll have to do that next year. We'll have to have themed costumes together.
Right. Jennifer says, I never heard of brown salsa, where you can get it. So there's actually a recipe on my YouTube channel where Chef Ramses Bravo made the recipe from the executive chef, Chef Reina at Rancho La Puerta. It's a pasilla salsa. It's my absolute favorite. It's not super hot, but it's smoky. But believe it or not, Sprouts does sell it. It's called pasilla salsa. It's kind of brown, almost black. And some regular grocery stores, I've seen it sold in, but theirs has a lot of oil in it. And the one in Sprouts just has a little salt. And it's really, really good because it's got a smoky flavor rather than a spicy flavor.
Wow. Is that made with like reconstituted guajillo peppers in it or something?
It's pasilla pepper, which is a specific kind of pepper. It's quite delicious. And I have the recipe, but every time I've made it, it never tastes like Rancho La Puerta. So.
Well, I'm going to check that out. I love using those dried peppers.
Yeah, they're very good. So I do get a little, people think I eat no salt. I don't ever add salt, but I mean, I will buy some jarred salsa here and there because I've tried so hard to make it and it's always an epic fail.
Oh, I'll check that out. I used to make chili with dried guajillo peppers that I would reconstitute into a sauce. That was a big Firehouse favorite. I'll have to give that a try and just make salsa out of it. That's a good idea. All right. So as you can see here, look at that. It just looks like carnitas, or it's browning up really beautifully. That texture is nice and chewy. It's like carnitas or chicken. And now I'm just going to add my taco seasoning. Again, this is salt-free, sugar-free, oil-free. I'm going to use 2 tablespoons. Actually, I think I'll use a tablespoon. Those cook down quite a bit.
That's so cool. You know, I'm allergic to soy, but I think a lot of people do like soy curls for things where they're trying to get.
Yeah. You know what? That's what I knew there was something I was forgetting on my list of substitutions. Soy curls, definitely in the soup or here. The other thing you can do, and I've done this quite a bit, is if you freeze a block of firm tofu, at least overnight, and then let it thaw in your refrigerator till it's completely thawed out, that changes the texture of the tofu. You take it out of the package and squeeze it like a sponge, and all that liquid comes right out. And you can break that into chewy little pieces that are really chicken-like. And so, yeah, in the soup or in these tacos, that's another great substitution. Thank you for reminding me.
Absolutely. You know, I wonder if there's not that many people that were born and raised vegan. I actually probably know less than 10. Our Goldhammer comes to mind. But I wonder if people that weren't raised eating meat are even looking to make things that taste like meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if that is the case. I wasn't raised vegan, and so neither was my husband. So we're always looking for things that are familiar for us. Yeah, that's an interesting question. But it is nice to have for a main, and for those folks, it's probably just lion's mane mushroom tacos, not a faux carnitas or whatnot. So there's my cooked up mushrooms, and I'm just going to turn them into some tacos here. I have some corn tortillas, so we'll make it tostada style for you, Chef AJ. They're not the crispy ones. I have some pinto beans that I cooked up and smashed up. I'd like to put those on the bottom. You can use whole beans, you could use black beans, whatever you like. I love red cabbage on my taco. I love red cabbage in general, but I always put it on my taco. It gives us a really nice crunch and texture and sweetness. I'll often put on thinly shaved radish is really good, very traditional with a taco. Let me grab some of my cooked up lion's mane on there.
Why is it called lion's mane? Because you said it looked like a brain. They should call it lion's brain.
It's kind of shaggy, and when I'm done here, I'll talk about that. There's some that are a lot shaggier looking. And then I have my salsa. Grab some salsa. Put that on there. Depending on how much you like. I've got some cilantro. That always makes everything fabulous. If you like cilantro, if you don't, just leave that off. And then I have some hot sauce. Just a little hot sauce on there. And now you have Taco Tuesday on Halloween. So beautiful taco that eats just beautifully. It's very meaty. It's very satisfying. This works in burritos. It works in taco salad, whatever you like. So that is our beautiful lion's mane tacos with the taco seasoning that I made. So let me clear my spot. Let's talk about the lion's mane mushroom, why it's called that. So these lion's mane mushrooms have little bits of shag on them, but some of them can be shaggier, where it actually looks like hair dripping down or hanging down, not dripping, but hanging down. And so I don't think I have any that have that shaggy part on them. So this may be a little less mature, that as it ages, they get the more of the shag, because I have had them where they're really, really, really shaggy, and they really look like a tribble from Star Trek. But yeah, that's where it gets the name.
I've never seen Star Trek. What's a tribble?
So there was an episode, and I'm not a Star Trek person. I just remember this from daycare in, this is terrible, in daycare when I was growing up. We were watching this Star Wars or Star Trek episode, and the Enterprise was invaded by these little puffball things that look like the lion's mane mushroom called tribbles, and they just completely took over the Enterprise. So that's as far as my Star Trek knowledge goes. Please don't hold me to
I like
it.
the word tribble. Do you know I'm probably
Yes.
one of the few people in the world that have never seen an episode of Star Trek or watched Star Wars?
Oh gosh. I've watched Star Wars. I'm not a huge Star Wars, know every line and know the plot of every episode or whatnot, but I have seen it. But yeah, Star Trek was not anything that I grew up watching, and so there's people that really do spend a lot of time with that and know more about the tribbles and probably can share.
I like the word, the tribbles. It sounds
Tribbles.
Yeah, these are my new neighbors, Mr. and Mrs.
I love it. And again, just to remind, here is our lion's mane chicken, or not chicken, noodle soup.
I mean, that looks
Very
better
hearty.
than chicken noodle soup. That looks so hearty and delicious. I wish I
Yeah.
had some right now.
Oh, if I could ship it to you, I totally would.
Ship
But
me the
even
seasoning
better,
mix because you're going into
yes,
business. What are we going to
that's
call
true.
it?
What would we call it?
Trimazing spices, Cindy's spices, Thompson. We got to think of a good name for them.
Yeah, we'll do that. Perfect, for sure. So that's what I have. Again, I want to remind everybody in the show notes, you can go to my webpage completely dedicated to this show today. It says trimazing.com/Halloween-2022. You can get all of the recipes here. You can get the recipes for the spice mix. You can get the recipe for the taco seasoning, the soup, and the tacos. You get a discount code for Mount Si fungi, where you can order anything in their store, including the substrate to grow your own lion's mane mushrooms. You can order their dried shiitake mushrooms that you can use to make the Manischewitz copycat vegetable soup mix. They also have a whole sort of different types of pantry items that you can order from them. And if you live in the Seattle area, you can find out what markets they're at and maybe even sign up for delivery. Also on that page is a discount code for private coaching with me if you are interested in one-on-one health coaching, so you can help meet your fitness and wellness goals. Also to sign up for any of the classes, including the Your Body in Balance for balancing your hormones and regaining your life. So
Great. So are all your classes in person now, or do you also do some virtual?
I do half and half. People really wanted to taste the food, and in the local area, that's working now, so I'm able to do that. But I really love interacting with people from all over the world and being able to have people have access to classes, even if there aren't live cooking classes in person in their area. So I'm not giving that up. I've got this beautiful kitchen that I can use to do my online classes. So yeah, I'm still doing those, and I plan to do those indefinitely.
That's great. And where are your in-person classes at?
So they are in the Seattle area. Most recently, I've been doing them in Carnation, Washington at the Snow Valley Senior Center. I'm still working on the next year scheduling. So if you go to my website and sign up and subscribe, then you'll be notified whenever there's classes added to my schedule. And I'm working with some other vendors or other venues in the Seattle area to have some more classes as well.
Cool. And did you give me the link to your yes, your Facebook group is in the show notes, guys. So everything is.
Yep. So I'll put that in the show notes. It's not there right at this moment, the canning one, but for sure I will make another notation. So go back in about an hour and I'll have the link for the Facebook group for the whole food plant-based vegan canning group as well.
And I'd be happy to add it. So we have a delicious meal here. What are you going to have for dessert, if anything?
Oh my goodness. I think I'm just going to have some berries so that I have the G-bombs for sure. Very simple and delicious. That's what I'm going to have for dessert. I actually also have my favorite thing. I have two different things for fall that are my favorite fruits. One is the red crimson pears that are red on the outside, or red Bartlett pears. Those are so good. They just melt in your mouth. And they're really abundant right now. Washington, Oregon grows a lot of pears. The other thing I love are the persimmons that are coming out right now, especially the ones that are soft, that you can just scoop out with a spoon, and they're so good. Yeah. So I'll probably have some of that.
Well, thank you, Cindy. It's always great having you on the show.
It's great to be here, and I love your costume.
I love yours too. I wish I could see better. Thanks, Cindy.
Sounds good.
Take
All righty.
And thanks all of you for watching another episode of Chef AJ Live. Please come back tomorrow. The show is 1 hour later at noon Pacific time. My guest is Dr. Dick Tibbetts. He is the author of Forgive to Live, now in its 10th anniversary edition, and he is going to be talking about how forgiveness can save your life. Thanks for watching. Ruby, Rikes, Raggy.